There is a very specific, almost invisible kind of terror, reserved for those who finally get exactly what they asked for. Welcome to what I call a systemic audit of the human condition. I want you to imagine we're just sitting here, across from each other in a dimly lit room, long after midnight. Just listen. We spend our entire lives building a ladder, right? The degree, the salary, the perfectly curated lifestyle. We just assume that the higher we climb, the more solid the ground will become. But as we'll see in this explainer, this isn't just a breakdown of concepts, it's a repair manual. A repair manual for what happens when you finally reach the summit, only to find out there is absolutely no floor.
So, why exactly does arriving feel so much like falling? For a lot of us, actually arriving at the top doesn't feel like a triumph at all. We try to optimize our lives to completely eliminate every single inconvenience. We just want absolute seamlessness. We want the summit. But what if the misery and the pure labor of the climb was actually the only thing providing the very gravity you're now missing? You see, the struggle gave you direction. It gave you a purpose. Without it, you aren't flying. You're just falling.
And that brings us to a sort of clinical diagnosis: internal vertigo. It's that exact, terrifying moment you reach the summit and realize there is literally no floor beneath you. You've spent a decade, maybe two, just checking off every single box society handed you, only to discover those boxes were empty all along. Let that sink in for a second. You didn't build a fortress, you built a glass castle, and now you're trapped inside it.
Just think about what we traded away to get here. Our survival-based heritage, it literally demanded friction, it demanded struggle. And because of that, our ancestors had this deep sense of meaning and gravity. Now compare that to the sterile, modern vacuum we like to call success, the comfort zone, predictable routines, chasing cheap dopamine hits on a glowing screen. Sure, it looks like the path of least resistance, but beneath the surface, it's the quiet, terrifying erosion of a human mind that has simply forgotten how to fight. One 10-minute Wi-Fi outage shouldn't completely ruin your day, but in the vacuum, it absolutely does. This sterile environment, it creates what's known as the hedonic vacuum. Basically, it's a world that shrinks simply because you've removed the exact stressors that once forced you to expand. Understand this deeply. When a muscle, or frankly a soul, isn't used, it doesn't just rest, it regresses, it atrophies. You optimized all the friction right out of your life, and in doing so, you actually optimized out the core mechanism for your own growth. So to fix this empty feeling, we slip into the material loop. You feel the void, so you try to buy your way out of it. You try to buy authenticity in bulk, you become what's called a maximizer, just drowning in 35,000 trivial decisions every single day, paralyzed by the fear that there's a slightly better option just out of reach. So you go out and buy a $100,000 watch that tells the exact same time as a $100 one, just with a lot more anxiety attached to it. You get the new toy, you play with it for 5 minutes, and the sensation dies. And boom, you're right back in the vacuum, desperately looking for a new hit to fill a hole that money simply cannot reach. The final result of this exhausting loop is a state called Subjective Anomie. It's the total suspension of your capacity to inhabit a meaningful horizon of possibilities. This is exactly how you become a limitless ghost. You have absolutely everything you need to survive, yet you sit around calculating how many years you have left, waiting for a death that already feels like it arrived. You've essentially optimized your humanity right out of the life you built.
And deep down, you know you're ungrounded. So you try to fake the gravity in what we call the performative loop. First, you feel the void. Then you stage the primitive. You film yourself taking a cold shower. You project this fake grit to a digital audience, trying to alter how you're seen before you even know what you're truly capable of. Finally, you turn off the camera, wipe the smudge off your expensive jacket, and remain entirely unchanged. The void? It's still there.
Section 1. The grounded path, returning to the earth.
So, how do we fix this? The first piece of the antidote is purely biological. It's called hormetic stress. It is the absolute biological requirement for small, controlled stressors to help us grow denser and stronger. It's like putting weight on a bone or feeling real biting cold on your skin. Listen, you cannot think your way out of the vacuum. You have to physically and psychologically introduce friction back into an atrophied system.
By deliberately introducing that friction, you start to build antifragility. That's a system that fundamentally improves and strengthens when it's exposed to volatility and pressure. And honestly, this is the only real cure for the glass castle paradox. If your highly optimized life is making you fragile, then you must deliberately seek out pressure. You have to seek out friction that no one else sees, completely removed from any digital audience. So what does this actually look like in practice? Well, it's the beach cowboy paddling out into a 40-foot wall of water at Nazaré. The sheer, terrifying volume of that ocean, it forces a kind of composure that literally cannot be faked for a camera. Or it's the ultra runner just pushing through 17 hours of raw suffering in the dark, until the mind just absolutely refuses to quit. It's visceral. It's authentic. It is unfilmable suffering that forces your humanity to wake back up.
We need to fundamentally redefine what success means, right now. Enough. It isn't a destination where the work simply stops. It's a weight that anchors you firmly to the earth. True arrival isn't the absence of obstacles. It's the heavy, grounding resolve to finally tackle them head-on. The work itself is the gravity.
Because if you don't anchor yourself, you fall victim to the success paradox. You achieve the summit, the struggle vanishes, the vertigo returns, and then the vacuum looms. Hear this clearly. Your success is actively trying to kill the person who achieved it. It wants to lure you back to that comfortable, frictionless summit. You are always just 1 week of comfort away from the vacuum. So here is your repair protocol. I call it the iron frame protocol. Step 1, seek unseen friction. Step 2, apply a controlled load, that hormetic stress we just talked about. Step 3, reject performative grit. Stop filming it, seriously. And step 4, embrace the daily, thankless weight. Staying grounded isn't some one-time achievement. It's a daily, heavy load that you have to choose to carry to harden your fragile system.
You're at the top again, and there is no floor. Because a life without a load is the lightest way to blow away. So as we wrap up this audit, I have to ask, what will you do today to find your gravity?